is excellent. I thought the taste was going to be overwhelming, and it's not at all. Hello, this is Amy from Chateau de Rosieres, and today I have just one day to transform the kitchen in our coach house, which is where we're going to be moving very soon. And the reason I have one day is because the children aren't here. And at the end of it, I'm going to be showing you a very special recipe that comes just from the Chateau estate. You can probably see that the coach house kitchen has become a bit of a mess since we did our initial preparation of it last year. It's become a bit of a party house down here, and the children have taken it all over, and we had barbecues and it's been a work area, but it's becoming imminent that we move in here. And of course, a working kitchen is one of the most important things for us. So the children are both out today, rather rarely, and I'm going to attempt to transform it in just one day to have everything that we need in order to live down here. Right now, I'm going to go and get some of the plates and dishes and things like that. We're going to be keeping the main chateau going and open until we actually do the main kitchen work. So we need to have duplicates of everything within the chateau for when people come to stay. Luckily, I'm a bit of an obsessive brocante buyer of crockery. So we have a lot, but it's right up in the second floor where I seem to be taking you every week at the moment. Oh, it's dark up here today. We seem to have lost spring. Which room are we going? One of our storage rooms. Wow, there is a lot of crockery up here. Probably will take this whole plate set down. I'll probably take just a few at a time so that we don't overwhelm it down there with things that we don't need. Whee, there we go. It's more that I can't see my feet, and there are so many places where Marc has done his little explorations in the floor and you suddenly put your foot in a hole. I've employed a workforce and they're already complaining to bring my stuff down, and I got mugs. There's already talk of a union because it's hailing as they're walking down.
Payment, please.
I'm sure I'm going to change my mind multiple times about where everything goes. And if you remember from when we did our mini makeover last year, this was from Marc's family home in Paris. I've recruited help for the last bits, especially to move furniture into place, isn't it? We think we've located a dining table. The one that we had down here last year was just too big, too wide if there were only a few of you. So we've got another one, but we're struggling to find a leaf to extend it, aren't we?
Yeah.
We'll go this direction. That is kind of perfect size, isn't it?
I like it, and it fits sort of perfectly under the lights
Yeah.
too.
just tried the top of this table downstairs. It's an interesting table. It came from our friends, Joe and Cedric, as so many things have recently, when their parents moved house. And his mom had apparently, a few decades ago, gone through an enthusiastic painting phase and had painted all of their furniture blue. And they were going to throw this down the rubbish dump, and Marc said, no, I'll take it. He cleaned it up, took most of the paint off, it's not totally finished, and found it's solid oak. And it's a dining table, and it needs a bit of repairing, but it's absolutely beautiful underneath. So we're going to use it as the extra table in the kitchen downstairs. We've just measured the top, and it all looks good. Oh yeah, so it's going to go straight, it's not extended. If we just put this, the extension on top for the moment, then we can fix the edges of that. The great thing is we'll be able to put the gas bottle for that underneath. You're right, Adonis, it looks so much better than the other one. It's Adonis that made us change it.
I love it.
He's become our style consultant as well as cameraman. Made good progress here today, and I'm liking the way it's taking form. Unfortunately, I can't do any more today. I've got to go and pick the kids up from their creche. And so we'll meet back here tomorrow. We're going to be making something very special using ingredients from the Chateau garden. Welcome back to the coach house, where I'm talking quietly because my baby girl is asleep. And just before we get on to the next section of this week's video, which is a very exciting kitchen-based activity, I want to talk to you again about Lingoda, the online language school that I spoke to you about a couple of weeks ago. I did lots of chat in that video about how flipping good learning a language is for your brain health and your memory. But you might also want to learn a bit of the language if you plan to travel to France, if you watch French videos. And I think learning online with these live classes with native French speakers is a really good way of learning. So what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to sign up for 3 of the beginner A1+1 classes and tell you all which classes I'm going to sign up for. And then if you want to take advantage of your special discount code for Rosieres, you can sign up for the same classes as me and we can do one together. And although, you know, it'll be something that I can do already, I thought it might be nice to join some of you and to give you the motivation that it takes to start learning a language. I'm here on my Lingoda homepage and I want to show you how to book the classes. I've got my course here that can tell me which ones I've already done and how many lessons I've completed of each section. You can do a registration before where you can test what level you're already at. But for this week, I'm going to be doing the A1+1 with any of you who want to join me. So here we go, book classes up there. And I'm going to pick, this is obviously being recorded before the 11th when this is going out. So what I'd like to do is do one on Monday the 13th in the evening for me, because my little popsicles don't go to sleep before then. So I'm going to do 8 o'clock in the evening for me. And I want to do A1+1. Get started, orientation. I haven't got a teacher yet for that one, but I'm going to book it. Confirm. There we go. So I've booked that one. Now I'm going to book on Tuesday night as well, for those of you who want to join me. And I'm going to book the second class of that series. Let's see, let's do 8 o'clock again. Tuesday the 14th of May, and I'm going to do Chapter 2, Communication, saying where I live and come from. There you go. So I don't know which teacher that's going to be at the moment, but if you get to know a particular teacher on the courses, you can pick them in future. But the great thing is that no matter which teacher we have, we'll be learning the same for Chapter 1, A1.1. So if you want to join me on Lingoda, sign up for their Flex campaign. Flex means that you can learn whenever you want and you can save up to 20% on signing up using the code AmyFlex, and the link that's in the description of this video and is the first pinned comment. And the free trial is 7 days and you can take up to 3 group classes or 1 private class. So why not sign up for the free trial, join me in a class, and keep an eye out in our community tab where I'll post which classes I'm doing and when, because if this class fills up, I obviously want to choose another one that you might be able to join me in. Welcome to my new kitchen. What I'd like to do today is show you our new kitchen in action. A few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, we did some cooking videos for you and some preparing of food. We made a rum top with local fruits. We made a leek quiche from our garden leeks, and people absolutely loved it. And so I'd like to show you a bit more of our daily life here, and I'm so excited to get into my new kitchen, which is much bigger than the old one and much more airy, and show you what kind of things we eat. Now, we are really big here on using as much local produce as we possibly can, and where we can, we either grow it ourselves or forage it ourselves. And I'm really fascinated by foraging, and in the spring there is so much opportunity for it. So today I'm going to be taking you outside to find some things to cook from the wild in our garden. We've got a very special event coming up, which is the baptism of our baby girl, Juliette. And she's quite old to be baptised, but it was tricky to get everybody from the family in one place at the same time for various reasons. And I'm going to be doing the catering. And we have anything between 30 and 80 people coming. And I would like to use as much local food as possible. And I need to test out some recipes I've been writing out. What I want to show you today is a stinging nettle quiche, because nettles are one of the most nutritious foods that you can forage. They're pretty much everywhere. You don't need to farm them yourself. And in fact, they're a pest, so most people are cutting them down. They have huge amounts of nutrients in them. They're great for iron, and you can pretty much use them to exchange with spinach in most recipes. I believe, but always check for yourself, that in North America and Europe, they cannot be mistaken for anything toxic. You don't need secateurs or anything to collect them, because you actually want tender stalks and leaves. And a good place to find them, if they're not as prolific in where you are as here, is anywhere beside water. So the smaller the leaves, the better, and the younger the plant, the better. These are a little large. So what I'm going to do to save preparation indoors is cut the leaves off at this point and leave the stalks behind, because we don't want them. Peacock and I have had a disagreement, and he's keeping his distance from me, but showing me his displeasure. I'm going to do about half a basket now. It's just like spinach in that you think you've got tons, and then when it cooks down you end up with a small amount. But I also don't want to overwhelm the quiche in our trials. So I think I've got about that. Also, it's raining and I'm cold. Got my nettles, and the first thing I'm going to do is get on with the onions, because they take probably the longest of anything to do. And in fact, today I've got shallots, which are even nicer. And so here I'm doing 2 larger shallots, which will roughly cover, loosely spread, the base of a quiche tin. Right, that's it. My shallots are cut. Again, it's totally up to you how finely you cut them. If you like onion or shallots and the taste of them, keep them chunky. If you just want the taste but not the texture, cut them small. Personally, I do it until I'm crying so hard I can't see any more to cut, and I'd cut my finger off. I just forgot that there's one extra ingredient that makes the onions taste unbelievably good. Bay leaves. Bay leaves are one of the best things you can do for your quiche. If you cook your onions or shallots right, it doesn't almost matter what else you put in the quiche, it will always taste good. And one of the key things I've found is to add bay leaves to the onions whilst they cook. The other thing I strongly advise when preparing your onions is to cook them in butter. I think it just gives the most marvellous taste. Obviously, there are other oils, but today I'm going to be using a local butter made at a farm just a few miles away from here. And don't scrimp on the butter. I've got a slight issue with the stove that Marc is trying to sort for me. So for the moment, I'm going to cook it on the wood stove that I've got heating things here. And that actually suits me because another key thing with cooking your onions or your shallots is to cook it long and slow. Cook them really slowly so they become translucent. You don't need to caramelize them, you don't need to burn them. You do need to cook them thoroughly, otherwise you get that raw onion taste. So it's about melting the butter. Put your shallots in. I use a cast iron pan and cook them. It can be as much as 20 minutes, it's up to you, until they're ready. It's really important, as with all foods, to wash them first. And again, I'm going to need my trusty gloves because there's still the stingy hairs on it. And that brings me to just checking where you get your nettles from. Pick them from somewhere nice and fresh and clean, not beside a farm that sprays pesticides because you just don't know what they've sprayed and whether it's meant for human consumption. And I'm sure many of you do foraging already. So if you've got any ideas of what to do with nettles, I am all ears. I'd love to hear about what you use them for, whether you have any extra tips. Like my brother, for example, says that when he makes soup, he has to add peas in because they give a bit of sweetness. And without them, he finds it almost impossible to eat. This is all a bit new to me because I'm having to use gardening gloves. I suppose I could use washing up gloves whilst I'm cooking. But the main thing is I want to soak these really, really well and then drain as much of the water out as possible. Because whenever, I'm sure as you've found, cooking with things like spinach and these green leaves, they have a tendency to get very soggy if you don't get as much water out as possible. And look, they look almost dry. So fresh. I find some people object to things like foraging as an idea because they feel like they can't be certain of it themselves. They can't be, that something needs to be checked and processed by another human being in order to be safe to eat. And I think that's an unfortunate disconnect with food because this has been in our garden. There's nothing dangerous that could have happened to it. It's completely free of the kind of pesticides that are in some of our foods and are so dangerous for us. I think that foraging our own food is not a dangerous pastime as long as we're careful. After you've cooked your onions, you can use the same pan. You don't need to wash it out or anything. Just take all of the onions out. But you don't need to add any more fat. You're just going to put your nettle leaves in there, same as you would do spinach, and we're going to wilt them because it's one of the best ways of keeping the nutrients in. Because if you boil your leaves, then half of them go out with the water. Steaming is a middle way, but this is wilting is a really good way of not having too much moisture. So they're in the pan, and what I'm going to be doing is just adding a very small amount of water to stop them scalding as we go along. So you need to hang out around your leaves, and then when they're completely wilted, like wilted spinach is, you just wait till the last bit of water has come out, and just keep turning it, and then you take it off the heat. Right, my spinach is nice and dry, not crispy, but most of the water has come out. So you can see how much that went down from being piled high in the saucepan to just this. Since this is a trial, what I'm going to do is cut it all up a little bit smaller. I don't normally do that with spinach, but this feels just a bit more fibrous than spinach, than young spinach. It's got a really earthy smell and taste to spinach, and so as it was cooking I added in some grated nutmeg. Normally if I use spinach I put the nutmeg in with the egg part, but today I just felt I'm going to need it in both. Always try to use fresh nutmeg, and grate it is such a superior taste than buying the powder already cut. Now it's time for assembly. And I think all the hard work is done in the preparation, because the fewer corners you cut, the better it is. And one of the corners I've learned not to cut unless I'm in a real hurry is blind baking the pastry before. I think there's also something to be said for the order you put the ingredients in. So I always start with the onions on the bottom. If you take out your bay leaves, beep, 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 beep. And that's partly because you've got the fat in there as well. And just sprinkle them around. Now I'm going to come to the main part of the filling, and the reason I wait until I've prepared all of this before mixing it is because I like to keep as much air in the eggs as possible. These are our own chicken eggs laid yesterday. Right, today I'm going to use 6 small to medium eggs, mostly small. That looks about right. And then I'll whisk them, you're not properly whisking the eggs, you're just getting air in them to make them light and fluffy. Now let's add the magic. I'm going to put in cream. You can't make a good quiche without cream, in my opinion. This creme fraiche, you can use heavy cream or creme fraiche, sour cream. This comes from a local farm I've just started buying from, which they go to the weekly market, which is where I got the butter as well. It is so delicious. I have been known to eat it from a spoon. It's the nicest cream I've ever tried. And we're going to add some milk, and this is raw milk that comes from another farm locally. Don't feel you need to sort of whisk all of that cream in. I like it when it's got big old dollops around. I'm also going to put some salt in at this stage, and a whole load more nutmeg, because I do love nutmeg, with my mini grater. Now, I'm quite particular about the order you put stuff in, as I said before, and I always think that if you're going to add vegetables, you add them, especially things like heavy things, you add them at the end. Otherwise, if you put them on the bottom and then pour your egg on top, you tend to get layers rather than it all integrated. It works for whether you put bacon in, whatever you put in it. And so, but when you put the veg on top, it sort of sinks in, but then you get the chance when the egg rises to rise around it. I think it gives a much better effect. So here comes my nettles. I felt that with the spinachy-like cheese, it would go very well with ricotta, and I've got this fabulous ricotta that I've already been digging into, buffalo ricotta that comes from another farm near here, that I picked up in a shop earlier. And I think I would prefer feta, a sharper taste, but I don't have any feta, and it's all about using what I've got around here. So what you want to do with the softer cheeses is just dollop them very gently, break them up with your fingers and drop them in. My final contribution is going to be some Parmesan. Marc has been unable to fix my stove, which I thought he was going to. The hose doesn't work on it because it's too old, which means I cannot cook this on that stove like I did the rest of it. I'm going to have to walk this back to the main chateau and put it in the oven there. So I've got to try and get it across the lawn without spilling it. I'm back in the main chateau. I have the oven on, and I think the key here is slow cook it. Otherwise you end up scorching everything on the top. I'm going to put it on at 160 Celsius, 320 Fahrenheit. I think that's right. And cook it for about 20 minutes and then check on it. I've done quite a flat quiche, so it might not take very long. I've been checking it every minute or so because I like it just right. And it's been in about 20 minutes, I'd say, which is a fairly shallow quiche. And there is no longer any wobble about it. So if you sort of tap the middle, you can see that there's some sort of loose juices. Everything still looks nice and moist and not rubbery. It's a little while before dinner and I can't wait to try this. So I'm going to give it a go now. So this is not the kind of quiche you're going to be carrying around and eating by itself. This is a fall apart quiche you need a knife and fork for. See, it's still quite runny in there. It's totally down to your taste, how you like it, but I love it like this. That is excellent. I thought the taste was going to be overwhelming and it's not at all. It could handle even more nettles in there. That is delicious. I think the Parmesan and the bay leaves with the onions are what really set it off. I'm going to be making that again. I think that's a really good candidate for our christening feast. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like it and subscribe to our channel. And if you want more cooking videos, I'm going to be starting a series of them on our Patreon account. And the first one up this week is going to be to do with mushrooms, wild mushrooms, in fact. And this morning I went out and bought some foraged mushrooms from a local shop. They are girole mushrooms and trompette. Can't remember the English. And I'm going to be making a delicious party food with that based on a recipe by a local 3 Michelin starred chef. So don't hesitate to check in the description and join us. I think you get a free week or 2 weeks if you join up, and it's as little as €2 a month. Thank you for watching.